What is up, mages and wizards of MTG Portal? Man, it feels like forever since I brought you guys a new deck tech. So I'm excited. I named this one Death's Embrace, mainly because I'm just going to hold you tight while I drain your life and do horrible, horrible things. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this deck tech. It was fun to build. It's quite imaginative. And I think overall it would play really well. So I did some testing and results were really great on my tests. You guys tell me what you think, and if you disagree with how I've built it, by all means in the comments. Tell me what you guys would put in there in a card's place, and let's make it even better than what it potentially is here. But without further ado, let me introduce you to Death's Embrace. Alright guys, so we're starting out with the commander, Dina Soul Steeper. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. It's really, really important to remember. You may pay 1 colorless, sacrifice another creature, and Dina, Soul Steeper, gets +X+0 until end of turn, where X is the sacrificed creature's power. I don't really ever care about her second ability. All I really care about in the deck is that whenever I gain life, I drain my opponent's life. Alright guys, so the first creature we're going to talk about in the deck is Witherbloom Apprentice. 1 black, 1 green, Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Absolutely powerhouse of a card. Alright, the next creature up is Vanewitch Coven. 2 colorless and a black from Menace. It's a vampire warlock with Menace. Whenever you gain life, you may pay 1 black. If you do, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Now notice, I don't have to tap him to do this. So whenever I gain life, I can return any target creature card from my graveyard to my hand. That's going to be very important once you start to see some of the other sack engines that are built into this deck. Alright guys, next up we've got Noxious Gearhulk. Again, it's 4 colorless, 2 black for an artifact construct with Menace. When Noxious Gearhulk enters the battlefield, you may destroy another target creature. If a creature is destroyed this way, you gain life equal to its toughness. I don't feel like much needs to be said about Essence Warden, other than it's just OP. A 1 green for a 1/1 Elf Shaman. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. Alright, next up we got Vito, Thorn of the Dusk Rose. Coming in at 2 colorless and 1 black for a 1/3 Vampire Cleric who is legendary. Whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. For 3 colorless and 2 black, repeating, creatures you control gain lifelink till end of turn. Alright, next up we got Death Greeter coming in at 1 black. It's a human shaman, 1/1. Whenever another creature is put into a graveyard from play, you may gain 1 life. Keyword is whenever another creature, doesn't say yours or your opponent's, another. You'll see it gets broken real quick. Alright, we have our first flip card in the deck. Valentin, Dean of the Vein for 1 black. He's a vampire warlock, legendary creature, 1/1. He has Menace and Lifelink. If a non-token creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. When you do, you may pay 2 colorless. If you do, create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with when this creature dies, you gain 1 life. Or you can pay 2 colorless, 2 green for Lisette, Dean of the Roots. Whenever you gain life, you may pay 1 colorless. If you do, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control, and those creatures gain trample until end of turn. So you got some options. Most of the time in the deck, you're more than likely going to play Valentine. But there may be a time where if you have enough creatures on the board and you're gaining enough life, you might want to ramp up your creatures and overpower your opponent. Lisette may come in play at that point. So, very cool synergy. Another great card in the deck. Probably one of my favorite creatures in the deck is Belladros Witherbloom for 5 colorless, 1 black, 1 green. It is a Elder Dragon. It's a 4/4 with flying. At the beginning of each upkeep, create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with when this creature dies, you gain 1 life. Excuse me. You may also pay 10 life, untap all lands you control, activate only once each turn. Absolute powerhouse of a card. Alright, next up we have Sedgemoor Witch, a 2 colorless, 1 black. It is a human warlock. It's a 3/2. It has Menace and Ward, which again, Ward is, let's say if an opponent is targeting this creature, in order to, say, shock it, they would have to pay 3 life in order for their spell to resolve. It also has Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with when this creature dies, you gain 1 life. Noticing a theme yet? I know, I know. I can hear everyone screaming in the first part of the deck tech. Where's the Blood Artist? Don't worry, guys. Here it is. Blood Artist is 1 colorless, 1 black for a 0/1 vampire. Whenever Blood Artist or another creature dies, target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Alright, one of the first sack outlets in the deck, Viscera for 1 black. It's a 1/1 vampire wizard. I may sacrifice a creature to scry 1. Pretty straightforward. Alright, next up we've got Deathrite Shaman, coming in at either 1 black or 1 green. It's a 1/2 elf shaman. I may tap it, exile target land card from a chosen graveyard, add 1 mana of any color to my mana pool. I may pay 1 black and tap it to exile target instant or sorcery card from a graveyard, and each opponent loses 2 life. Or I may tap 1 green and exile target creature card from a graveyard of my choosing, and I gain 2 life. Alright, next up we have Corsair of Krufix coming in at 1 colorless, 2 green. It's a Centaur, 2/4. Play with the top card of your library revealed. You may play lands from the top of your library. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. Alright, next up we have Ayara, First of Lochthwain. 3 black for a 2/3 elf noble. Whenever Ayara, First of Lochthwain, or another black creature enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. You may tap her, sacrifice another black creature, and draw a card. Alright, next up we've got Savra, Queen of the Golgari. For 2 colorless, a black and a green, she's a legendary elf shaman, 2/2. Whenever you sacrifice a black creature, you may pay 2 life. If you do, each other player sacrifices a creature. Whenever you sacrifice a green creature, you may gain 2 life. Here's the beautiful part about this. Most of our creatures are both black and green, so you trigger both effects. So essentially, you can see where it goes. It gets nasty really, really fast. Alright, our next creature up is Blood Researcher, coming in at 1 colorless, 1 black, 1 green. It is a vampire druid with Menace. Whenever you gain life, put a 1/1 counter on Blood Researcher. It's a 2/2. Quite nasty. Next up, we've got Tivash, Gloom Summoner at 4 colorless, 1 black for a 4/4 human warlock. He is a legendary creature with lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, if you gained life this turn, you may pay X life, where X is the amount of life you gain this turn. If you do, create an XX black demon creature token with flying. Fantastic. Next up, we have Beast Whisperer, 2 colorless, 2 green for a 2/3 elf druid. Whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card. Absolutely wonderful synergy. Marshland Bloodcaster, 4 colorless and a black. He's a 3/5 vampire warlock with flying. For 1 colorless and a black, I may tap him. Rather than pay the mana cost of the next spell you cast this turn, you may pay life equal to that spell's mana value. Absolutely fantastic synergy, especially if you're out of mana. Willow Dusk Essence Seer. 1 colorless, 1 black, 1 green for a 3/3 legendary Dryad Druid. I may pay 1 and tap him. Choose another target creature, put a number of 1/1 counters on it equal to the amount of life you gain this turn, or the amount of life you lost this turn, whichever is greater. Activate only as a sorcery. Oh, excuse me. Next up, we have Protean Hulk. 5 colorless, 2 green. 6/6 beast. When Protean Hulk dies, search a library for any number of creature cards with total converted mana cost of 6 or less, and put them on the battlefield. Then shuffle your library. You guys starting to notice? Yeah, he's one of the big bombs in the deck. Noticing a trend. Cryptgas, 3 colorless and a black for a 2/2 spirit with Extort. I had to bring Extort back, and I know some of you are asking, when are we going to see Extort? Here it is. Whenever you tap a swamp for mana, you may add 1 block to your mana pool. Fantastic card, great synergy, runs wonderfully in the deck. Next up is Opposition Agent, 2 colorless and a black for a 3/2 human rogue. With Flash, you control your opponents while they're searching their libraries. While an opponent is searching their library, you exile each card they find. You may play those cards for as long as they remain exiled, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast them. Absolutely fantastic in the deck. Next up is Thrall Parasite. 1 black for a 1/1 Thrall with Extort. You know, there's a lot of different cards that I could have added in this slot, but I really like the Thrall Parasite, especially that I may pay 2 life and tap him and remove a counter from target non-land permanent. Really helps me keep my opponent's planeswalkers from ultimating or getting too high, removes counters off artifacts, enchantments. There's a lot of versatility here, and Thrall Parasite was a great fit for this slot. Absolutely fantastic card, and yeah, he'll find a lot of use in the deck. Guarantee you that. The final creature in this section is going to be Shouldered Whispering One, coming in at 5 colorless, 2 black for a legendary Praetor. It's a 6/6 with Swamp Walk. At the beginning of your upkeep, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, that player sacrifices a creature. Absolutely fantastic bomb of a card and great synergy in the deck. Alright, next up we're coming up into the enchantment section of the deck, and first on that list is Sanguine Bond at 3 colorless, 2 black. Whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. Alright, next enchantment on the list is Exquisite Blood, coming in at 4 colorless and 1 black. Whenever an opponent loses life, you gain that much life. Noticing a trend, are we? Alright, next on the list is Life Gift, coming in at 2 colorless and a green. Whenever a land enters the battlefield or comes into play, you may gain 1 life. Keyword here is it doesn't say under your control. Absolutely fantastic card. Alright, next up on the list is Moldervine Reclamation, coming in 3 colorless, 1 black, and a green. Whenever a creature you control dies, you gain 1 life and you draw a card. Fantastic. Alright, next up on our list is Greater Good. Coming at 2 colorless, 2 green. Sacrifice a creature, draw cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power, then discard 3 cards. Think Protean Hulk when you think of Greater Good. Alright, next up is Vampiric Rites, coming in at 1 black. I may pay 1 colorless and a black, repeating, to sacrifice a creature, and I can gain 1 life and draw a card. Alright, next up we have Sylvan Library, coming in at 1 colorless and a green. At the beginning of your draw step, you may draw 2 additional cards. If you do, choose 2 cards in your hand drawn this turn. For each of those cards, pay 4 life or put that card on the top of your library. Alright, next up we have Phyrexian Arena at 1 colorless, 2 black. At the beginning of your upkeep, you draw an additional card and you lose 1 life. Alright guys, next up is Grave Pact at 1 colorless, 3 black. Whenever a creature you control is put into a graveyard from play, each other player sacrifices a creature. Alright, next up is Wound Reflection at 5 colorless, 1 black. At the beginning of each end step, each opponent loses life equal to the life they lost this turn. Just a fantastic, fun little enchantment. Because guarantee they're going to lose some life throughout your turn or their turns. It's just going to hit them. Revolving door. It's fantastic. All right, then last but not least, we have Exploration coming in at 1 green, and you may play an additional land on each of your turns. This is going to round out our enchantments. Next, we're going to take a look at artifacts and see what we got in the deck. So, stay tuned. Alright, so first up on the list of artifacts is Well of Lost Dreams, coming in at 4 colorless. Whenever you gain life, you may pay X, where X is less than or equal to the amount of life you have gained. If you do, draw X cards. Fantastic synergy. It's not a commander deck tech without Soul Ring. Artifact number 2, for 1 colorless, you may tap it to add 2 colorless to your mana pool. It's pretty much a staple in every E.D.H deck, so knew it was going to appear here. Alright, next on the list is Arcane Signet, coming in at 2 colorless. You may tap it to add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. So for that, for us, it's going to be black or green. Just fantastic. Very, very quick and easy mana fix. I always knew there would be a time when I would find a deck tech to put Bolas' Citadel in. Well, here it is. So for 3 colorless, 3 black, you may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may play the top card of your library. If you cast a spell this way, pay life equal to its converted mana cost rather than pay its mana cost. And I can tap it, sacrifice 10 non-land permanents, and each opponent loses 10 life. There's so much versatility in this one card, in this deck tech. It's insane. Absolutely love it. Alright, next up we have Demon's Horn. 2 colorless for an artifact that simply states whenever a player plays a black spell, you may gain 1 life. Well, since we're a multicolor deck and almost every spell is both black and green, yeah, very beneficial artifact to have in your deck tech. And if we're going to run Demon's Horn, we're also going to run Worm's Tooth. For 2 colorless, whenever a player casts a green spell, you may gain 1 life. Again, we're both green and black, we're Golgari, so no matter what spell we cast, most likely in most instances, late game we're going to be gaining 2 life and burning our opponents for 2 life for every spell. Absolutely fantastic. Alright, our next artifact is another dual flip card. It is Chalice of Life, coming in at 3 colorless. You may tap it and you gain 1 life. Then if you have at least 10 life more than your starting life total, transform Chalice of Life. It flips into Chalice of Death. You may tap it and target player loses 5 life. It's fantastic. I love it. Alright, to end our cycle of artifacts, we have Golgari Signet coming in at 2 colorless. I may pay 1 colorless or 1 of any mana to tap it to add both a black and green to my mana pool. And now we're going to move on to Planeswalkers. So here we go. Alright, our first Planeswalker on this list is Vraska, Golgari Queen, coming in at 2 colorless, a black and a green. She starts with 4 loyalty. For a +2, you may sacrifice another permanent. If you do, you gain 1 life and draw a card. You may -3 her to destroy target non-land permanent with converted mana cost 3 or less. Or you can ultimate her for 9. You get an emblem with whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, that player loses the game. She's just a fantastic planeswalker that your opponents are never going to let ultimate. But you know what? You're going to get a lot of versatility out of her before she's wiped off the board. Alright, and our last Planeswalker in this block is Professor Onks. 4 colorless, 2 black. She does have Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. That's fantastic. You can +1 her. You lose 1 life. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put 1 of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. Downtick her for 3. Each opponent sacrifices a creature with the greatest power among creatures that player controls, or ultimate her for 8. Each opponent may discard a card. If they don't, they lose 3 life. Repeat this process 6 more times. She starts with 5 loyalty. Absolutely fantastic Planeswalker. Okay, instant block. First one up is Mortality Spear. 2 colorless, 1 black, and a green. This spell costs 2 less to cast if you gain life this turn, which will always be gaining life. So really, you're casting it for 2 and you're destroying target non-land permanent. Absolutely spicy. Alright, then we follow that one up with Assassin's Trophy. 1 colorless, 1 black, 1 green. Destroy target permanent an opponent controls. Its controller may search their library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle their library. Alright, following that up with Putrefy. 1 colorless, 1 black, and a green. Destroy target artifact or creature. It cannot be regenerated. Alright, so I know this one's a little bit more expensive and probably going to be something where people are going to say, why can't you just substitute it for something else? There is Demonic Tutor. Demonic Tutor is in the deck, but it's considered a sorcery. This one is at instant speed, so I do include it. Vampiric Tutor, search your library for a card, then shuffle your library and put that card on top of it, you lose 2 life. Because of the life loss, life gain, and how that plays into the deck, that's also important, but it's instant speed. It's an instant speed tutor. It's a quick response to an opponent. If you can afford it, this is a perfect card to have in there. If you can't afford this, feel free to substitute this one with something that you think would benefit you more. But for this deck tech, yeah, it's Vampiric Tutor. Alright, so the next card on our list is Abrupt Decay. 1 black, 1 green. Abrupt Decay cannot be countered by spells or abilities. It's really, really important. And the destroy target non-land permanent with converted mana cost 3 or less. Lots of purpose here, lots of versatility in the deck, and a lot of different ways to utilize this card. So it's a great addition. Alright, so this is one I'm really excited to have in the deck tech because it just completely punishes your opponent. So, Weather the Storm. Yes, obviously, one colorless and a green, you gain 3 life. Not the greatest, right? Wrong. It has Storm. When you cast this spell, copy it for each spell cast before it this turn. So you don't play this just to gain 3 life. You play this when you have enough mana to cast 3, 4, and 5 spells, and that 5th one or 6th one being Weather the Storm. Then you're just gaining so much life, and you are literally punishing the opponent for every spell cast prior to this. Absolutely fantastic addition to the deck. If played in the context of the way that I'm wanting you guys to play it by utilizing Storm, you're going to get a lot of versatility out of it, and yeah, it's going to hurt your opponents quite a bit. All right, next up is Pulse of Marasa for 2 colorless and a green. Again, this is another card that's subjective. You may question why it's in the deck. I don't. First of all, it gains me 6 life, allows me to return target creature or land card from a graveyard to its owner's hand. And on top of that, when I gain life, I punish my opponents. So it fits with what the theme that I'm doing with the deck. But again, it's subjective. If you don't like Pulse of Marasa, or Pulse of Marasa, my goodness, then substitute this card for something else that's not going to affect the theme of the deck. Kind of like Vampiric Tutor, it's one that you can substitute with something that you feel is more inclined to your playstyle and the way that you're steering the deck, while still sticking to the theme of the deck. So, fantastic card nonetheless. All right, and then ending out our sorceries, we have Noxious Revival. You can either play it with a green or 2 life. Put target card from a graveyard on top of its owner's library. It's a great way if you lost something really important, one of the key parts to your deck, to be able to get it back. We've got multiple ways, multiple cards on the deck that will allow you to do the same thing. It's just great to have one more of those cards in here and add to that arsenal. So next up, we're going to look at sorceries and then move into the final block, which is lands. Alright, first sorcery on that list is Demonic Tutor. 1 colorless and a black. Search your library for a card, then put that card into your hand and shuffle your library. Alright, mana ramp is very important in the deck. It helps you get ahead of your opponents and really kind of place what you're trying to do quickly and effectively. So obviously the first card in that category is going to be Cultivate. 2 colorless and a green. Search a library for up to 2 basic land cards, reveal those cards, and put one on the battlefield tapped, the other into your hand, then shuffle your library. Cultivate automatically fixes us right out the gate because we're only rolling 2 colors, which is black and green. So it's fantastic. It gets us prepped to bring our commander out immediately and to start pumping out our lower CMC costing spells and ramp right into our bigger stuff. So Cultivate is great. All right, and next up, and one of my other favorite cards, who says blue is the only color group that can take extra turns? I disagree. Temporal Extortion. 4 black. It is at sorcery speed. When you play Temporal Extortion, any player may pay half his or her life, rounded up. If a player does, counter Temporal Extortion. Either way, we win, because our goal is to drain our opponent's life, so please, by all means, pay half your life. Take an extra turn after this one. It's a fantastic card. I love it. Alright, next up, continuing the mana ramp, is Kadama's Reach. A 2 colorless and a green. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards. Reveal those cards and put one on the battlefield tapped and the other into your hand, then shuffle your library. Alright, next up is 3 visits. 1 colorless and a green. Search your library for a forest card. Put that card onto the battlefield and shuffle your library. So, by that ruling, we could be looking at a fetch land, a shock land, a dual land, anything that's got a forest in it falls into this category. So, fantastic card, great way to add some ramp to the deck and get the correct mana fixing you need on the board. So, not much more to say about 3 visits. Alright, we do have a lot of control-focused cards and removal in the deck. We've got 1 board wipe, and that's Damnation, 2 colorless, 2 black. It's pretty straightforward. Destroy all creatures. They can't be regenerated. Alright, next up is Reanimate. Yes, we have a little bit of recursion on the deck. We don't have a whole lot of focus on it, but we do have a little just in the event you need it. At 1 black, put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. You lose life equal to its converted mana cost. This can also be a win con if, say your opponent's got a Kozilek or an Ulamog or something crazy in their deck. You wipe their board that's in the graveyard, you reanimate. This can help reestablish your board state. It can also pull something out of the graveyard that's just a big bomb that your opponent can't handle. So Reanimate's got multiple purposes, lots of versatility, great addition to the deck tech. All right, and when you're talking about just absolutely brutal ways to finish off your opponent, what's more nasty than an exsanguinate? X and black black. Each opponent loses X life. You gain life equal to the life lost this way. You will see in the lands such as Cabal Coffers, the mass amount of lands you're going to have. There's plenty of opportunity to drop exsanguinate with a massive bomb and obliterate one opponent or multiple opponents. It's quite nasty. So. All right, next up is Victimize. Just a little bit more on the reanimation block. On Recursion, we've got Victimize at 2 colorless, 1 black. Choose 2 target creature cards in your graveyard. Sacrifice 8 creature. If you do, return those chosen cards to the battlefield tapped. All right, rounding out our sorceries with one more mana ramp, that a spell that is Skyshroud Claim at 3 colorless, 1 green. Search your library for up to 2 forest cards and put them on the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Again, remember, forest card could be anything like a fetch land that's got green and black, a dual land, a shock land, a scry land, anything. So very, very important to know that so you know what you're fetching. Alright guys, so we're going to get into the lands of the deck. I do want to say again, lands are very subjective. Some people may want to run something different. There may be players out there that can afford some of the higher end dual lands and different lands that most E.D.H players are not looking to invest or utilize. I'm going to throw different options, but I'm first going to show you what I did to keep it budget centric, and then we'll kind of go from there. So obviously, first land up is Command Tower. All right, next up is Verdant Catacombs. We are only running one fetch land in the deck for obvious reasons. We're looking for a swamp or forest card, so that is Verdant Catacombs. Alright, our next land is Bala Ged Sanctuary. This is also a dual flip land, which can turn into Bala Ged Recovery, which you could play for 2 colorless and a green. Bala Ged Sanctuary is going to enter the battlefield tap, but it is going to add you 1 green mana, whereas if you don't need that mana at the time, you can utilize this as a sorcery base and return target card from your graveyard to your hand. I like the dual versatility with this card. If you're getting flooded with mana and maybe you really need to return a card to your hand, you've got the option to utilize that. If not, you've also got this as a mana source. So this is the only land I have that has the whole enter the battlefield tapped clause in the deck, but again, I felt it was important because of the dual opportunities there. I know the last card I said was the only one that enters the battlefield tapped. I retract that. I forgot I had Bazooka Bog in here, or that I had that ability on it. Bazooka Bog's primary purpose, though, is when Bazooka Bog enters the battlefield, exile all cards from target player's graveyard. Going against the different metas in the format, there are going to be there's a lot of decks that rely, especially in E.D.H and C.E.D.H, that rely on utilizing their graveyards, especially spellcaster decks and so on. So to be able to completely exile all cards from target player's graveyard, that's huge. On top of that, it is an extra black mana. So yes, there are 2 cards that enter the battlefield tapped, but both of which I feel like have wonderful versatility in the deck and are justified in being here. Urborg, Terminal Yawgmoth. Not much more needs to be said about that, but it's definitely important in the deck. Each land is a swamp in addition to its other land types. All right, next up is High Market. Another great addition to the deck. First of all, it's an additional sack outlet. It's not an infinite sack outlet per turn, but it's still a sack outlet, and you gain a life for every creature you sacrifice. And you can also tap it to add 1 colorless to your mana pool. Most of the time with High Market, you're not going to be using it for the colorless mana. You're going to be using it for the additional sack outlet to trigger all the other creatures on your board, and all your different enchantments that are all going to punish your opponent by simply sacrificing 1 creature. Alright, so I know again, Cabal Coffers, very subjective card because of its price point. I will tell you, if you're going to build this deck tech, it is going to be an investment you're going to want to make. You can definitely take it out and put a different land in here. That is your choice, but the deck will not run as designed without Cabal Coffers. Couple reasons why. Cards like Exsanguinate, which is relying on a mass amount of mana. Cabal Coffers is really going to be the card that's going to generate that for you. Because you got to remember, Urborg, Tuma Yawgmoth makes all of your lands black in addition to the other color types. So a lot of the cards in this deck, are looking for high amounts of mana. And Cabal Coffers with 1 tap, you could make 32 black mana, and you could literally destroy one opponent or two opponents or three, depending on life totals. So Cabal Coffers, I know it's right around $120 price point, but for this deck tech, it is absolutely essential. Definitely something you're going to want to trade for, or make that little bit of an investment if you really want this Golgari deck to run the way that it should. All right, and then next up we've got Overgrown Tomb, adding a black or a green. Yes, it technically can come in the battlefield tapped, but nobody's going to let it do that. You definitely should not let it do that. Pay the 2 life, bring it on the battlefield, and start smacking your opponents with your spells and abilities. Another one of my favorite lands from Kaldheim is Slither Boar Pathway and or Reversible Dark Boar Pathway. Basically, you can tap to add a green or tap it to add a black. It allows you to fix your mana on the spot. I love having that option and being able to choose. Do I want black? Do I want green? It's not a dual land. It's not something that comes into play tapped. It's not a scry land. It's just a straight option between green or black. And depending on whatever point in time you're in the game, whether it's early game, mid game, or late game, that option is going to be really important to you. So. Alright, another land that I really appreciate here is Woodland Cemetery. Woodland Cemetery does state that it's going to enter the battlefield tapped unless you control a swamp or a forest, but because we are a 2-color Golgari deck, the odds of us pulling this on turn 1, pretty slim. The odds of us pulling it on turn 3 or 4, pretty high, but we're going to have either a swamp or a forest, so we have no concerns about it entering the battlefield tapped. Alright guys, and then we're going to finish it up with our basic lands. Obviously I run 12 forests. Your choice on what type. I like this particular full art forest. They're about $5 a pop, but they're pretty freaking cool. And then 12 of our swamps. Again, full art's the way I go. I like to bling mine out with foil, but whatever feels good for you guys is what I'd want you to do. So, now, before we end the video, I am going to throw a few other suggestible lands if you have the money, the investment, and you're capable of doing so. These are other fantastic options that would work really well in the deck. Alright, so again, highly subjective, but if you've got them or you have them in your binders, some players do. A Bayou is a fantastic way to go, adding either black or green to your mana pool. It's a great dual land opportunity, especially for this deck tech. And Gaia's Cradle. The amount of creatures you're going to get from pest tokens to small CMC casting creatures. Gaia's Cradle is fantastic. Tap it to add 1 green to your mana pool for each creature you control. So guys, if you have them, use them. They're going to be fantastic additions. But don't feel like you got to go out and spend crazy amounts of money. You don't have to have a Bayou. You don't have to have a Gaia's Cradle to make the stack work. I definitely recommend that you have all the other lands I spoke about. But these two, if you got them, it's just going to help you bling it out and make it that much cooler. If you don't, it's not a massive deal. So. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the deck tech. Let me know what you think. Please, as always, if you haven't, subscribe. Click that bell for more notifications on upcoming deck techs. And Wizards and Mages, I will talk to all of you soon. Thank you so much for being a part of MTG Portal. Hope you guys enjoyed the deck tech. Peace out. Enjoy the video. And look for more content coming soon. I do have a video I'll be uploading here, hopefully within the end of the week, for my Commander Legends and the amazing pulls out of that box, as well as 2 profit or loss videos, because we've been a week behind and I've been sick for 6 days. I'll talk to you guys all later. Really hope you enjoy the deck tech. Leave your comments, suggestions of what you would do differently down below. Let's have a conversation about it. I'd love to see somebody build this and draft it and tell me how it plays. I'm building it myself, and I'm looking forward to having some fun homebrewed E.D.H deck games built around this guy and other upcoming deck techs. Have a good one, guys. We'll talk to y'all soon. Take care.